So January 1st reading is from Genesis 1 Genesis 1, 2, and 3, basically. So some notes I made from this is in the beginning, must be from the beginning of time. The beginning of mankind, that's what I'm assuming there. Another thing that stood out, the Spirit of God hovered over the surfaces of the water. The earth was formless and God shaped it. Before land, he moved it and he created it. It seems like God used the words "let it be" and it happened. He spoke it into existence. The first part of Genesis 1 kind of gives us the idea of generally how it was done, and then he gets in a little more detail. Still pretty vague. Land sprouted vegetation with seeds. The earth produced animals, and later on it talks about how God formed it out of the land. God made us. God, he refers to himself as us, God. And again, I got to remember, this is Moses writing this. This is the account that God wanted us to hear through Moses when Moses was bringing this all together. God spoke this to Moses in his writing. So he refers to us as us, and I'm assuming that's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, because we know in John it talks about I am he's the Word, everything's created through him. That's Jesus. We have the Spirit hovers over the waters. That's how I'm taking that. We are created in his image and their image. At this time, seed-bearing plants are our food. So this is before the fall. This is before the flood. I think if I remember correctly, after the flood, we're given a little bit different direction as far as where we get our food from. But at this point, God tells us that our food is from fruits and from trees, and that animals are to eat green plants. Not each other, to eat green plants. So that's where their food comes from. Humans reign over animals, fish, and birds. God formed us out of the dirt, and he breathed into us, and that's what made us alive. His breath of life made us alive. We're kissed by God, and he placed us in the garden at that time, and there were lots of fruit trees, and that's what we ate of. And we wandered at that point, and we talked with God. We were face to face with God, up to the point of us being evicted from the garden, or Adam and Eve. At that point, the one thing that I found interesting is that we don't know it's Adam and Eve until the end of chapter 3. That man, it's just man and woman, man and God, man and animals. The other thing that I found interesting that I hadn't noticed before, that I had noticed that there's a river that flows from Eden. It flows through the garden because it waters the garden, and then it splits into 4 ways. The Pishon is marking a land of gold, pure, very pure gold, and it's also onyx and aromatic resin. And then it talks about Cush, the Tigris and Euphrates. And again, this was all before the flood, so just making note of it. Then God gets into some details about God making man, then animals, for man to name. God made man, and then he made woman from man, and then it talks about this is where two come together as one, leaves father and mother. That's the 224 verse about marriage. Then we get into the fall of man, 3:1-24, where we ate from the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The woman was tempted, and the serpent is the one that shared, and the serpent's representing Satan, right? That's the way I see it. And she wanted wisdom. The serpent made that appealing to have that wisdom, because it was the knowledge of good and evil. She eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You know what good and evil is. Up to that point, they didn't know what good and evil was, and we could walk with God and face God, and we didn't have evil. But once we knew what it was, we have evil. It wasn't there up till the point of knowledge. From that point, God cursed first the serpent, which is Satan, and interestingly enough, the serpent to crawl on its belly like a snake. And so, what's that saying about Satan? What he does? That also talks about eating the dirt and having the enmity between woman and Satan there. And then he also gave women painful childbirth and man struggle to live, work. He also introduced thorns and thistles into the plant life that cause us as man to sweat. We have to sweat in order to eat. We have to work. It introduces work to us and hardships at that point. God gives us that through our disobedience. And then we get into the naming. Man is called Adam, and Eve. Adam calls Eve because she is the mother of all. And then we get Adam. And God said that humans have become like us as far as knowing good and evil, and he removed them from the garden because we're not strong enough, we're not able to handle life for forever. We must die, our human selves must die. That's what I get out of the first 3 chapters of Genesis. Very kind of a vague 3 chapters devoted to how we were made in our fall. And how much of that is symbolism, how much of that is like, factual. I believe it all to be true, don't get me wrong there, but how much is that do we stand on and believe in? We get a little more detail, I know, in the creation as far as how things are made when we read through Job, and God telling Job how he created the things, he set the things into place. But I don't know, that's what I get from that. What was the one thing that I made note of? The woman was tempted. Yeah, from marriage, 224. We were made for this. He made us for this. He made man and woman. He made woman out of us. Yeah, man and woman. Yep. Yeah, this is beautiful. This is at last the man explained, because God is showing them all the animals, and God put him into sleep, took a rib from him, made woman out of the rib, and said, "This is the helper that he needed. Bone of my bone, flesh from my flesh, woman, because she is taken from man." This explains why a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife, and the two are united in one. Now the man and his wife are both naked, and they felt no shame. And we have perverted that since then. We've perverted that to be our own. We know what the truth is. He put the truth of everything in us. We have knowledge of what is good and evil, but we try to lie to ourselves and go against what he says. This helps guide us and helps keep us into this thing. That's why we should read it and should understand it and know it. But yeah, we are made to be married. I like how Paul puts that marriage thing, that it is good for man not to marry, but we should be married if we can't handle ourselves in our desires. So where two or more are walking together, then we have the strength of two. We get more for our labor, but we also have the inhabitants of two, where we have to work together and we have to wait for one another. So there's times where being married holds us back, but it's still a good thing. It's all good. But we're definitely made to be man and woman, not man and man or woman and woman, but that's what it says. And again, we kind of take that and try to pervert that and make it for ourselves. But we know what's good and what's not good, but we fall to our own desires and want to do sometimes what's not right. So anyway, that's my thoughts from Genesis 1, 2, and 3.